Good evening, everyone. How many of you are present in today's class? How many of you are there? I hope I'm audible to all of you, all those who are present in the class today. Can you people hear me? How many of you are present in the class today? Oh, unsolved mysteries here. Good evening. Can you hear me, dear? Am I audible to you? Kaisar, hi. Kaisar, hello. Am I audible? Okay. Rituraj, yes. Okay, fine. Wonderful, wonderful. All right, Kaisar, thank you so much. Welcome to yet another session of TISSNET today. And I hope we are going to have fun today also. In my previous classes, if you remember, I covered quite a few concepts on grammar and vocabulary and all. And today we are going to talk about some more interesting questions which may help you score more in the TISSNET exam. Okay, so jaldi se please ask your friends to join the class so that we can kickstart the proceedings. I hope you all are preparing well for TISSNET 22. It's around the corner, not many days left. Before you think TISSNET will be there knocking at your doors. Okay. So, what is the agenda today? Let me put the things in perspective before we start the class. Agenda के बारे में थोड़ा बात कर लेंगे as to how to start and what are the question types that we are going to discuss today. So right at the very beginning of the session, let me request all of you to press the like button if you at all like the session interesting and exciting. All right, and I would like all of you to interact with me. बातचीत करेंगे तो माहौल बनेगा and we talk. It's important to have that mahal of discussion and discussing the questions. All right. So the moment you talk to me, that gives me the much needed kick to actually put my best foot forward and take you to the next level. Together, we are going to go to the next level. All right. So without any further ado, let me start the session today for all of you. आज का agenda ये है आपके सामने. So this is what we are going to discuss and analyze. Quite a few previous year questions, and we are going to talk about a few odd one out questions. Remember, I did take up a few odd one out questions in my previous classes also. A couple of questions on fill in the blanks based on grammar, right? Because grammar is going to play an important role to actually take your score to the next level. Analogy based questions, x is to y वाला जो question हम लोग practice करते हैं, we talk about analogy based question, idioms and phrases and reading. So basically it is going to be, different question types served on the platter. So we are not going to dedicate this session only on grammar. We are going to take up different question patterns, and yes, we are going to solve an important reading comprehension today towards the end of this. All right. Sir, I'm getting 65 in mocks unsolved. He said, there's nothing to be discouraged about. Look at your weaknesses, unsolved mystery. If I can help you with that, please do his SWOT analysis as soon as possible. Please check which section is taking you down. Is it English? Is it Prince says, yes, sir, I also scored 65 in mocks. Don't worry, right? There is always a possibility of a turnaround. Friends, Mr. Mystery, there is always a possibility of a turnaround. तुम अगर mock में और हमेशा याद रखो whatever mocks you're taking, and if you're taking BYJU'S mock and you're scoring 60 to 65, remember you're going to score more in the main TISSNET exam. Don't you worry on that. थोड़ा सा ah Princess, I'm scoring okay, so fine. Okay, you're scoring 18 in English. You give me the vertical which section is taking you down. Vertical के बारे में बात करेंगे. अभी एक ऐसा समय आ गया है ना, हमें वो जानने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि which section in English is actually posing a threat, or it is coming to you as a challenge. Which section, which area of English actually, particularly you are finding problem in addressing. थोड़ा सा मुझे बताएंगे तो probably I will be able to help you. So सफर पे निकलते हैं. Let us start the journey. Or along the journey, we are going to take up questions, and I will be happy to answer all your queries, whatever queries you. All right. So let us start the proceedings, guys. जल्दी से दोस्तों को बुला के लाओ so that we can have some more, traction. Okay. I will talk about RC towards the end of the session today. Shreya says it's usually synonyms and antonyms. Okay, okay, okay. Let us see if we can get some of the questions right today or not. All right. Kuch questions karenge. It is important to actually focus on the basics, right? If you improve your reading, you will notice that synonym antonym questions will become easy for you. Solve a few mocks and solve a few question based or questions based on antonym synonym. Okay. Read some vocab based exercises. Read some books if I can help you with that, because this is the time when books also will not be of much of a help. थोड़ा सा हमें mocks पे काम करने की जरूरत है. See how the question paper was, see how the question pattern was, 3 to 4 years back, and practice on those lines, and probably you will start improving your attempts will show marked improvement if you solve a few mocks from the previous year these questions. इस question को देखो, it says find the odd one out. Okay, you have pharmacist, lunatics, audiologist, statisticians. Quite a few words. Okay, so what is the odd one out? Most of you have answered the question, right? We try to make the questions unnecessarily complicated. If you have gone through the question paper of TISSNET, mark my words, the questions are not going to be that difficult. Okay? A little bit of focus on the question paper and some practice here and there is definitely going to fetch you the much needed marks in English. Now, in this question, if you see pharmacist, audiologist, statisticians, you're talking about experts. Audiologist, people who actually deal in neurology or some neural disorder, people who treat for neural disorder, audiologist. Pharmacist, people who study pharmacy, medicine. Statisticians, people who deal with statistics. Lunatics is the odd one out because it talks about people who are mad or crazy, right? The rest of the words they talk about an expert area, but lunatics is something different. We are talking about mad and crazy people, all those people who are mad and crazy. That is lunatics. So this is the odd one out, right? Lunatics. So A is the answer. Pavitra, Nidhi A, Samriddhi A, all of you have answered A. That's a damn good start. बहुत अच्छा start है. Very good. So A is the answer, right? Let's move to the next question. It is important that you keep on solving questions. Have a look and feel. It is important to have a look and feel of the questions. थोड़ा सा questions को देख लेंगे ना, look and feel ले लेंगे. So you will start answering the questions in no time. Hi Crown, hello, how are you? Welcome on board, welcome to the family. Okay, we have some masterclass names in this group. We have Crown Music, we have Mystery, we have Enigma. So beautiful name, guys. थोड़ा सा अपना नाम बता दो so that I can address you by your name. Okay. All right. So this question is based on fill in the blanks. The story was just too beautiful, I dash not read it. I dash not read it. Okay. Thank you, Nishan. Thank you so much for this compliment. It means a lot to us at BYJU'S exam. We really, really try to bring forward the best we can for you people. All right. Couldn't have, would have, should have, could have. I think this is a fairly easy question to answer. Okay. Would have, shouldn't have, could have, couldn't have. You see, this was a question which is based on auxiliaries. Okay? And how to use auxiliaries in answering the question. The story was just too beautiful. It was a beautiful story. I dash not read it. Now, if it is a beautiful story, what is the idea? The idea is you should have read it. You should have no option but to read it. You did not have any option but to read it. Means it was so beautiful that you could not stop yourself from not reading it. It means you actually could not stop yourself. So could not and not read. Look at these two. We are talking about a double negative over here. Okay? Double negative, it gives you a very positive response. I could not have not read it. It means, by all means, I had to read the story. I could not have not read it means, by all means, I had to read the story. So in this case, the answer is A. I would have not read it doesn't make any sense. I shouldn't have not read it. Now, should takes you to, it's a sense of suggestion over here, right? And this shows your capacity, right? I couldn't have not read it means I actually read the story. It was just so beautiful. Okay? So between shouldn't have and couldn't have is a much better choice. Could have does not make any sense over here. So please stick with couldn't have. So this is the answer. So in grammar, please remember, I have been telling you and still let me tell you, please practice some questions on helping, right? Practice some questions on subject verb agreement. Pronoun questions, right? They are going to be tricky enough for you, right? Pronoun questions and practice some prepositions questions also, right? If you look at my videos, if you just pick up some of the videos which I discussed in, wherein I discussed a couple of concepts based on prepositions and pronouns, just have a look and you will understand, what kind of questions you may have in the kitty in the times to come in this year's TISSNET. All right. Yes, Shreya, no wonder you have seen such questions in mocks because these are the questions taken from, inspired from the previous TISSNET questions. So please stick to the structure that you actually witness in the mocks or in our classes. These structures are going to help you understand what kind of questions you're going to face in the upcoming TISSNET. All right. So in this question, what was the answer? It was A, couldn't have read it. Let me take you to the next question. Okay. This is a beautiful question based on analogy. Abomination is to disgrace. What is to ridicule? Nishant, that's a pretty straightforward question. If you don't know, if you don't have any clue as to what should be the answer, I would suggest you to leave that question because you have other questions to negotiate with. Do not waste time on the questions you don't have any idea about, right? It is as good as swimming in a deep ocean when you just have learned swimming, all right? So any question you don't have an answer to, right? Please spend your time on other questions which are doable. Abomination is to disgrace, dash is to ridicule. क्या आंसर हो सकता है? Okay, I'll start my discussion 10 seconds from now. Nidhi says D, Prince says D. Okay, all of you have marked D. Town says mockery. All right. What is abomination? The word abomination, it means loathing. It means loathing or some kind of hatred. Abomination. It's quite a negative word. And disgrace also means falling from grace, a disgrace to something. Okay. Now, dash is to ridicule. Ridicule means to make fun of. Okay. Ridicule means to make fun of. Praise is a very positive word. Solemnity means seriousness. When you talk about some kind of seriousness or gravity, that's the word. It is also quite a positive word. Openness means candid or frank, being open. Mockery, making fun of. So if abomination is to disgrace, it is the synonymous pair. Look at the pair. How do you change the analogy into a one-liner? What is the relationship? They are synonymous. Abomination is to disgrace. Similarly, mockery is to ridicule. So D is the answer, and you people were absolutely right. Okay, congratulations. Okay, Kaiser has suggested Nishant that he can try the elimination method. That is one way to look at the question, but Nishant's question was, what if I don't have a clue? Even if I, go through the options, what if I don't have? In such a case, right, now, let's not talk about being helpless. Negotiate with the other questions and try to attempt the question if at all there's a possibility. Okay. In my previous class, I told you to adopt this method, EI whole squared. Okay. E stands for elimination. I stands for information. Take some information. And the other I stands for inference. This method can be applied to RC questions. And you can also do this with the vocab questions or the grammar questions at the same time. All right. Let's apply this formula on this question. See if we can do this. Find the odd one out. See, we are again dealing with an odd one out question over here. Suave, ingratiating, urbane, girlish. What is the answer? Suave, ingratiating, urbane, and girlish. We'll do the discussion 30 seconds from now. Trey has answered it. It's C. Okay. Girlish. All right. Brown Music is up with the answer. He says girlish. Mridula says C. Girlish. Okay. So you all know that the answer is going to be girlish. Let us check. What is suave? It is an adjective. Okay. It means very polished and refined. Polished and refined. James Bond, look at his attire. He's so polished, he's so suave. That is suave, polished. Quite a positive word. Shubhrajit says C. Okay. Ingratiating. Ingratiating means flattering. Somebody who has this habit of flattering others or fawning. Another word could be fawning. Urbane. The next word is urbane. What is urbane? Urbane means polite, full of manners, good manners. And the next word, C, has a negative sense. Yes, Kaiser, C does have a negative sense. It actually means curt or rude, quite an annoying individual, somebody who is an annoying individual. So if you look at the sense of the words, suave, ingratiating, ingratiating also has a negative sense over here. But curlish, right? It means curt and rude. It is outrightly negative. Okay? And that is why we are going to stick with C, curlish, and this is the answer. Okay? Curlish. Somebody who is rude and somebody who is curt. Ingratiating, flattering. Now he is also positive. Now he will actually heap false praises on you. So he will try to be positive. So in that ways, this word is also positive. Okay. Urbane is positive, suave is positive. Only curlish is the odd one out. Alright? Okay. So C was the answer for question number 4. Can we look at one more? Always remember, take more mocks, and that is the only way to excellence. Okay, take as many mocks as possible. We still have a couple of days to negotiate with. Take mocks and solve such questions. Okay, now the moment you take mocks, you will understand the structure, you will understand the question pattern, and sometimes it is important for you to understand the pattern more than the practice. Why? Because once you know the pattern, you will actually direct your practice in those lines. Let us solve question number 5, guys. It says complete the idiom. He couldn't decide what to do. He was stuck between a rock and a dash. No wonder why you have heard this being used among friends, because this is quite a common idiom being used when you are speaking or communicating with people. All right, let us get to the question. The question was he couldn't decide what to do. It means he was in a dilemma, right? He was indecisive. There are idioms like devil and the deep sea. So when you don't have clue where to go, you have problems on both the sides and you do not know which side to choose. So when you are in a dilemma, when you are indecisive, he was stuck between a rock and a dash. Difficulty, problem. Now what is the tone or the tempo of the sentence, and what does a rock will connect? What will it connect with? It connects with hard place, between a rock and a hard place. So this is the answer. Difficulty, problem. He is in a problem because he is indecisive. He has a problem. He has difficulty. He is indecisive. Hell does not make any sense over here. So the best option in this question would be C, hard place. So this was the answer. All right. Previous year TISSNET paper, you might have come across it. Okay, आगे कुआं पीछे खाए निशांत, absolutely right. That's how we actually express this it in Hindi. आगे कुआं है पीछे खाई है, जाए तो कहाँ जाए. All right. There is between a rock and a hard place. C is the answer. Now, when you see these questions and when you practice and discuss, don't you think the questions become easy to answer? When you discuss, the things become easy, and take this tempo in your examination hall, and you are going to score great. Let me tell you that. Okay. All right. One more question on odd one out. Can we do this? Let's see. Divergence, revelation, dissemination, denial. Kavya says, hi sir, I lose a lot of marks in RC. Any tips? Kavya, you have to work on your reading, dear. We are going to solve an RC passage today. Let me see how many marks together we are going to score, if not lose. Let's not lose marks, let's score marks. We will discuss a passage on RC. It is important that you read. See, Kavya, in RC passages, it is very important to understand that where to look for the right options, where to look for the answer, that is important. Each and every paragraph will give you its own central idea. the main idea. Every paragraph will have a main idea. The idea is to connect those ideas together, the main ideas together, and bring home the rationale, that actually sums up the passage. We will discuss it in some time. Question 6 says, find the odd one out. Okay. So how many answers do we have at the moment? A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. All right. The word is divulgence, revelation, dissemination, denial. Divulgence, revelation, dissemination, denial. What is divulgence? Anybody? Divulgence means to divulge a secret, to bring out. सच को बाहर निकाल देना, to bring out. Revelation comes from the word reveal. Dissemination means to spread. It also means to bring out. Okay. So when you talk about divulgence, revelation, and dissemination, one word that is common among these three is disclose. When you disclose something, when you open up something, the only word that does not fit the bill is denial, which means refusal. These words means to disclose, but denial means refusal. Hence, the only option that is the odd one out is A, denial. This is the answer. The remaining three, they actually means disclose. That is why you must choose A. Shubhrajit, it is actually denial. The word is denial, and this should have been the answer. The odd one out. You see, divulge karna, bahar nikalna. Reveal karna, revelation, reveal, bahar nikalna. Dissemination, spread, phaila dena, bahar nikalna. Denial, to refuse. Stop there. You are not taking out anything. That is why denial is the odd one out. A should have been the answer. Okay, does that make sense? Have you understood? Right, this was the technique behind solving this question. All right, that was question number 6 for you guys. That is why it is important to read the question carefully. Please read the question carefully and try to figure out the meaning of each and every word. Vocabulary building and improvement in vocabulary is very, very important. Please understand that. All right? Okay. Complete the idiom with the correct word. This question is based on completing the idiom with the correct word. Can we do this? Let's see. My car keeps breaking down. It's the dash of my life. The words are A, scourge of my life, ruin of my life, bane of my life, or plague of my life. Nishant comes up with his answer. He says bane. Thank you, Nishant. What about the others? Bane, all right. Ruin. Okay, okay. My friends, please key in the answers quickly. Mrinal is asking me a question, so should it be C? Dekhte hain. Okay. So it was complete the idiom with the correct word. My car keeps breaking down. It's the dash of my life. It's the dash of my life. Now, from the way the sentence has been framed, you can actually figure out that you need a negative word, right? You need a word that is not spirited enough, that shows that something bad is affecting your life, all right? The first word is scourge, which means punishment, right? A scourge from God. You know, the word actually has a biblical reference. Some sort of a whip. You understand, whip or a hunter, which is used to beat people, to stop people. That is a symbol of punishment. Scourge, which means punishment. The figurative meaning is punishment. Ruin, the remains of anything. Remains, टूट गया है, कुछ remaining चीजें बची है, that is ruin. Bane means curse. and it is the opposite of boon. Bane is the opposite of boon. Bane, a curse. Plague, a disease that spreads in a community or in an area, infectious disease. It is the dash of my life. Scourge means punishment. It can also mean curse. Bane means curse. Okay, but primarily the main meaning, the real meaning of scourge is punishment. It can be taken figuratively to be a curse, but bane actually means curse. So bane is a much better choice. So C over here should have been the answer, not scourge. C is a much better answer. Okay, scourge could have been a possibility in the absence of bane. Since bane is present, we are going to go with C. Bane. Ruin does not fit the bill. Plague out of question over here. All right. Boon versus bane. Counts as boon versus bane. Boon, Ashirvad, benediction, blessing, curse, sharp. Okay, so boon and bane are antonym of each other. That is why in this case you need bane. It is the bane of my life. It is the curse of my life in that sense. So C should have been the answer. All right. So that was question number 7 for you. How to complete the idiom, right? Sometimes what do they do in TISS specifically? They will show you an idiom. They will give you the partial idiom in the question, and they will ask for the answer that actually has, would have the remaining part of the idiom. All right. In this case, Bane was the answer. Moving on to the next question. Okay. Match the idioms to their meanings. How do we do that? Match the idiom to their meaning. Nishan says Bane is for a long term, right? Any curse, right? From which there is no deliverance, वो चलता चला जा रहा है, बाहर नहीं निकल रहा है. So that's a curse. Yes, if it is for long term, it may be. Match the idioms to their meanings. अब इसको match करना है. Let us do it. Chase your tail, deadwood, plum job, acid test. Okay. Sound music says B, Nishan says C, Shri Vishnu, TV. Okay, that's quite a name. B, C, okay. All right. So chase your tail, deadwood, plum job, and acid test. Okay. So chase your tail. Spending time but not achieving anything, to keep on doing something, right? But your effort is futile. So chase your tail. A dog can chase its tail, but it will never be able to catch it. Okay, so a futile effort. So one is C. The only option that gives you this is B. One is C. Two, deadwood, unnecessary stuff. Plum job. Plum job means a cushy job, a job which is easy to do but that yields you money, that yields you good business and profitability. So plum job can be cozy position A, right? And then you have 4 is acid test to prove effectiveness. He has an acid test. Today is the acid test. Can chase your tail mean unnecessary stuff? Unnecessary stuff means when you do something which is of no significance. Chase your tail, right? Suppose, now imagine a dog chasing its tail. Will you be able to catch it? No. You are in the pursuit of anything, but it is not yielding you result. It is not, it is, out of achievement. You're not achieving anything out of it. You're doing a job, but you're not achieving anything out of it. That is chasing your tail. So in this condition, B should have been the answer. 1C, 2D, 3A, and 4B. This should have been the answer. All right. Please work on your idioms. So one, if you can get now in this question, what was the trick? अगर C बाकी में होता, so it would have been a complicated affair. One was pretty straightforward. Question one was pretty straightforward. So that could have led you to option B. The others can outrightly be eliminated, isn't it? So B was the option for question number 8. Now, most of you were asking me these questions on RC में तो numbers नहीं आते. All right. I am going to take up this RC with you people, this reading comprehension passage with you people, and then we will discuss the questions, and just in case you have any doubts, please feel free to ask me. Okay. 30 seconds I'm going to give you to read the first slide, and then I'm going to take you to the next slide. All right. Please start reading. All right, let me take you to the next slide, guys. Okay, so here comes the next slide for you. Don't worry, Kaisar, we are going to do the passage together. We are going to read the passage together. Okay, so this is the second slide for you people once again. All right, my friends. So let us start discussing the passage together. All right. So what does it tell you? Historians have long argued about what gave rise to the Age of Enlightenment in the 18th century. We're talking about the Age of Enlightenment in the 18th century and what was the reason behind the rise of this age. This is the main argument of the historians. Some have hypothesized, इसने idea दिया, some have hypothesized to give an idea that it was at least in some part due to the rise of coffee houses. Okay, at least in some part due to the rise of coffee houses. Okay, this was the first idea given by some of the historians that the age of enlightenment happened because of the rise of coffee houses. How? That seems far-fetched. That seems far-fetched, a bit far-fetched, until we look at it more closely. Very quickly after the rise of coffee house, there emerged a distinction between them and the pubs. Pubs, you know what pubs are, where alcohol is served. So there arose a distinction between the coffee house and the pubs. Rumors of the health benefits of coffee spread, and it was soon agreed that coffee houses spurred more sober, spurred means encouraged, more sober, rational thought and sharper political discussion. So this was the advantage of a coffee house. It encouraged sober, rational thought and sharper political discussions, whereas taverns catered to rowdiness and intoxication. Intoxication being under the influence of alcohol. A coffee house was a place to be exposed to new ideas. Coffee house was connected with what? New ideas, current events, and discussions of how life might be lived. So we are talking about the merits of coffee house and the demerits of the pubs. Until this time, a forum to discuss new ideas had not existed. Now merchants, traders, writers, philosophers, and politicians had such a forum. Gradually, they found other ways of meeting and coffee house began to wane. Remember this line, coffee house began to wane in popularity, to go down in popularity until the Starbucks generation brought them back 25 years ago. So the passage talks about the rise and fall of the coffee houses and what was connected to the rise of coffee houses and what was the reason for the downfall of the coffee houses. The first slide, this slide deals with that idea. Some historians claim that coffee replaced beer soup, which was the most European, which was what most Europeans and Americans had subsisted on, means lived on, depended on, with a drug that now kept them awake and allowed them to converse well into the night. Now, this drug is a reference to, it is an allusion to coffee, right? That kept them awake because this beverage is quite invigorating. It keeps people awake, now kept them awake and allowed them to converse well into the night in a far more lucid way, with clarity. This, they feel, was what gave rise to both the French and American Revolution. Right? This, they feel, this means the use of coffee might have been the reason for the French and American Revolution. This is just an inference which we can draw from the passage. Other historians say that a high level of leisure had created an environment in which people could afford the time to meet in coffee houses to discuss the latest farming techniques, business trends, and of course politics. So it was the level of leisure that actually encouraged people to go to coffee houses. Leisure means free time, time which you can spend comfortably with your friends. So it was the high level of leisure that actually encouraged people to go to coffee houses. King Charles of England actually attempted a ban on coffee house. Now, this is interesting. Why did he attempt to ban coffee house in 1675? Fearing that they might result in his loss of power or even decapitation. Decapitation, cutting off head or killing people by cutting their heads. That is decapitation. However, his ministers loved their coffee so much that they overruled the ban. They did not actually vote in favor of the ban. So coffee houses eventually were not banned. So did coffee houses give rise to these meetings, or was it the level of leisure that had suddenly come about? It does seem logical that people with a clear head would be more capable of holding onto an idea for a longer period of time and would have the mental acuity to grasp what each other was saying. Acuity means sharpness, intelligence, or sharpness. Okay, so this passage was dedicated to the rise and fall of coffee house. Again, it talks about, so perhaps it was a happy confluence of increased leisure and a switch to coffee that enabled so many of those wonderful thinkers to hammer out their ideas for a new nation, and those with a scientific bent to come up with so many of the major breakthroughs during the 18th century. This part talks about the advantages and the developments that took place in terms of the intellectual discourse, the revolutionary ideas, and it happened because of this confluence coming together of what increased leisure and the switch to coffee, okay? Going to coffee from alcohol. So this together, gave rise to such ideas. 18th century in Europe and America. Some of our founding fathers may have sat in these very coffee houses discussing the future of the colonies or how government should be, noting the pitfalls or failures of monarchies, rules by king of England and France. Perhaps a seemingly harmless thing like the emergence of coffee houses actually influenced our culture. Again, a conjecture, just a guess. A seemingly harmless thing like emergence of coffee houses actually influenced our future. Could be one of the reasons. Interestingly, almost as quickly as they sprang up, coffee houses began to decline. This line talks about the end of coffee houses or why the coffee houses began to decline. They had served their purpose. What was supposed to be done was done, and were no longer needed as meeting places for political or literary critics and debates. So, as quickly as they shot into fame, they also declined and waned out. So, the crest and trough of coffee houses, the emergence and the decline of coffee houses, and the reasons behind. This was the sum and substance of the passage. I think it was quite an easy passage to follow. Okay, now can we look at the questions? This is the first question in front of you. If coffee was not the largest influence on the Age of Enlightenment, what does the author suggest might have been the influence? If coffee was not the largest influence. Okay. Mansi has chosen C. Okay, Mansi. Tasman Khair says C. Pavitra C. Priyanka C. All right. So all of you have stuck to C. The rise in leisure time that Europeans and Americans had suddenly had. Was this the reason? Was this the influence? If coffee was not the largest influence, what was the influence on the Age of Enlightenment? is the question. Now, if I move you to this slide, yeah, the second slide over here. Other historians say that higher level of leisure had created an environment in which people could afford the time to meet in coffee houses. So they met in coffee houses, and that was the reason for this enlightenment era, because there was higher level of leisure in their hand. There was higher level of free time in their hand, and that is why the answer is C, the rise in leisure time that Europeans and Americans suddenly had. So if you talk about elimination, information, and inference, this question was based on information. It can be directly derived from the passage. C was the answer, and the others can be straight away eliminated. All right. So C is the answer. Excellent answer, all of you. C is the right answer choice. Let's look at question number 10, guys. Which of the following most closely suggests the author's attitude about the influence of coffee houses on the age of enlightenment? Author's attitude. Vishnu says why. Now, I'm unable to understand this option of yours, Vishnu. If you could just elaborate on it a bit. C, A, C, all right, all right. Nishan says A. Now, why? Now, if you look at A, all of you, let's look at A. They definitely were the major factors. They means the coffee houses. They were the major factors. Now, if I take you to the very first slide, and please read from here. Some have hypothesized that it was at least in some part due to the rise of coffee houses, but the very next line, that seems a bit far-fetched, right? So the influence of coffee houses on the rise to the age of enlightenment seems to be a bit far-fetched according to the author. So if this is a bit far-fetched, can we say can we say that they were definitely the major factors? I don't think so, right? So the very presence of that sentence negates A. All right. B says they were definitely an improvement over pubs. This word definitely, people actually preferred coffee houses to pubs, but we cannot say they were definitely an improvement. Had it been the case, they would not have waned out. The rise and the fall of coffee houses. C says they were a possible connection, but perhaps not the only one, right? Perhaps not the only one. There were other connections also. Why? If you come to the latter part over here, or the latter part of the first slide, gradually they found other ways of meeting, and coffee houses began to wane. Other ways of meeting, if this were the case, don't you think that takes us to see the rise in leisure that Europeans and Americans, this one, but perhaps not the only one, because there were other ways? Rings a bell? They were more conductive to conversation is definitely a reason, but is that the author's attitude? Which of the following most closely suggests the author's attitude about the influence of coffee houses? Right? Between C and D, they were more conductive, understood, but this was not the only. Author is not outrightly eulogizing the presence of coffee houses. He's not actually praising the presence of coffee houses. He talks about both the rise of coffee houses and the fall of coffee, because he says there were other ways also. So between C and D, C is a very safe choice. Okay. Hence, in this case, the answer should have been C. This is the answer. All right. C is much better worded. Nishant, I think, no, it's not D, dear. It has to be C. All right. D is present is one of the factors. Okay. But it cannot be the be all and end all of the author's attitude. Okay. It talks about author's attitude. All right. Okay. Next. Which of the following does the author not do concerning coffee? This word is important. The author not do concerning coffee. The author ने किया ही नहीं है कॉफी के कंसर्न में. Which of the following does the author not do concerning coffee? Mansi is asking me a question. So is it D? Brown says A. Pavitra D. D. Samriddhi says A. Okay. I think we are enjoying this confusion, isn't it? Which of the following the author he does not do? करता ही नहीं. A says the author indicates that it sharpens the mind, right? Sharp political discussion, unless and until you have sharp mind, you cannot. He talks about acuity. He talks about acuity, mental acuity. Okay. So sharpness of mind, does he refer to the sharpness of mind? He does. Mentions that it helped people stay up late to discuss things. Even this is something which he talks about. Contrast it with beer soup. Coffee replaced beer soup. Yes. Demonstrate why it is so healthy. Does the author talk about the health factor of coffee? Does he factor in the health benefits of coffee? He does not factor in health benefit of coffee. So this actually is missing from the discussion. This point has not been factored in by the author, hence D should have been the answer, because the question was which of the following does the author not do? आपको याद आ रहा होगा कैट में except questions. So this was again an except question, quite easily done. A, B, and C can be figured out. It can be inferred from the passage, but D cannot be inferred from the passage. So D should have been the answer. Okay. I'm sorry, Mangshu. It has to be D, dear, not B. Okay. B is mentioned in the passage. B is there. All right. Okay. Moving on to the next question. Why does the author mention the proclamation of King Charles? This question has been worded pretty smartly. It talks about the reason why the author mentions the proclamation of King Charles. Okay, the answers are coming in pretty fast. All right. D, C, D, C. Okay. अब तुम्हें इस बात का पता लगाना पड़ेगा. Does it have any relation to coffee houses? Why does he mention the proclamation of King Charles? If you go back to the passage over here, King Charles of England actually attempted a ban on coffee houses in 1675, fearing, this word is important, fearing that they might result in his loss of power. They might result in his loss. Coffee houses might result in his loss of power, right? So from here, it is absolutely clear. From here, it is absolutely clear that it talks about the king saw coffee house as a threat to his power. Quite an easy question. So D is the answer. To show how kings were bullies, this is not mentioned in the passage, so A is eliminated. To suggest how things got done back then, out of scope, it is too far-fetched. This is not what the passage discusses. To demonstrate how strongly coffee houses had become a part of society, had no relation to the proclamation of King Charles. This does not have any relation, so even C is out. D is the right answer. All right? Yes. To demonstrate how coffee houses had become a part of society, yes, sir. Coffee house becoming the part of society, how do we correlate it with proclamation? There is no relationship over here, right? It is mentioned absolutely clearly in this part, right? He actually thought that the coffee houses might result in his loss of power, so he sends threat to his throne, right? And since he actually sensed it as a threat to his throne, that is why, right? We are going with D and not A, B, and C, right? It is the proclamation of King Charles. That was question number 12, guys, for you. Next question. Which of the following best expresses the author's purpose in writing this passage? Guess what the passage says? The ministers, they overrode the proclamation. That it was withdrawn is not what the passage mentions. Okay, which of the following best expresses the author's purpose in writing this passage? What was the purpose of writing this passage? Means the main idea. It's a main idea question. It is asking for purpose. So all of you have marked D. So what was the purpose? A says to show how the political thinking behind two revolutions got started. Behind two revolutions got started. This is too specific. It is out of the purview of the passage. It is out of scope. What are we talking? B says to explain how the age of enlightenment came about. Was it about age of enlightenment only? The question mark over here. To show why coffee houses are better than pubs. This was one of the references out of many that were made in the passage. To discuss a possible connection between coffee houses and the age of enlightenment sounds the best. This is the rationale behind the author's purpose in writing this passage. Okay, the emergence of the coffee houses, they served the purpose and then it waned out. Its prominence began to decline towards the end. So between B and C, D is a much better choice, and this is the answer. It can be seen in the very first couple of lines of the first paragraph to discuss a possible connection between the coffee houses and the age of enlightenment. So D was the answer. Okay. With that, we come to the end of today's discussion of the verbal ability different question types for TISSNET. Tomorrow, once again, we are going to do a revision of a final round of all the possible questions of TISSNET. Tomorrow, I'm going to come with another set of important TISSNET questions at 9 p.m. Right? And tomorrow's session will be more interesting, and we are going to find out all the answers to the questions that we will discuss tomorrow. All right. I hope you found value in this session. Kavya says, sir, can you please give tips on how to answer inference or conclusion questions? Okay. The inference question, Kavya, are going to be indirect questions, and conclusion questions are also going to be indirect. It all depends on how well we have understood the rationale or the essence of the passage. Remember, conclusion questions and the inference questions can only be answered if we have outrightly being able to understand the rationale of the passage, right? Understanding of the main idea of the passage becomes utmost importance to actually being able to answer the conclusion based questions. All right. We will discuss one more passage tomorrow, and let's see if we could answer those questions. All right. Join us live on 26th at 5 p.m. for the detailed analysis of the TISSNET 22 question. It's a must attempt question, and you can very well understand where do you stand at the end of the day. The moment you are done and dusted, we can join and discuss live the analysis of the TISSNET paper. Don't forget to attend the session, guys. Okay. Last lap to TISSNET. You all must be aware of it. Please attend the sessions. We have actually we have been able to bring you all the sessions starting from 4th, and 23rd will be the last session. That is Wednesday, I believe. Gaurav sir will take it up. All right. All those who have taken CAT and have scored a decent percentile, please enroll yourself for this program, CAT, PI and WAT program taken up by Srinivas sir and Gautam sir. Don't miss the session. Enroll to this session today itself. For queries, please talk to our counselors at the given number. CAT 22, several batches are underway. If you are planning to write CAT 22 and get going with the preparation, don't forget to ask for help. Join the batches right away so that you can start the preparation with perfect footing. Like the session, like our page, comment on the session. If you like the session, please do write reviews, share it with your friends, and subscribe BYJU'S Exam Prep. All right. On that note, okay, also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. YouTube, of course, we have been having quite a few classes on YouTube also. Download the app from Google Play and enjoy the sessions with us. Tonight, we are going to have the session tomorrow, Shakranal, at 9 p.m. That will be a final revision of TISSNET. All right. On that note, goodbye to you and see you in the next class. All the best for TISSNET. God bless you all.